Evening, everyone. Evening, and welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I am Jason Ashcraft. I am joined by a great cast of characters today, and we have a lot to talk about because Saturday morning, I woke up with what can only be described as food poisoning, and it ruined my entire weekend. But little did I know as I was worshiping the porcelain god early in the morning that I would feel even sicker that evening as FC Cincinnati lost 2-1 to DC United, a team which is in the doldrums of Major League Soccer. And here to talk about it, we have got a great cast, as I mentioned, making his debut on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. James, the Norse god himself, Odin. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. I had a couple days to get over what happened, and we're here.
We are here. That's about all that can be said. And you count your blessings where you can get them. Here to help break us down the whatever that was on Saturday against DC United. Once again, Coach Goff. Coach, how you doing?
Happy to be here, man. I'm gonna have to change my worst though now, or maybe it's my best after hearing about your weekends. It's one of those.
That honestly might be my best. The little foreshadowing is that that I'm going to go ahead and say it now. We're going to go ahead and get into best and worst. Love to hear from you all in the chat what your best and worst was, and chat away as we try to make sense of what's going on with FC Cincinnati so far this season. Yeah, my best was that I wasn't there, that I missed out on it. My wife, God bless her, she was dealing with me, and I was feeling better, and it was around like 4 o'clock, and she said, "Do you really want to go?" And I said, "No, no." And I think I made the right choice. My worst, of course, is just the whole darn thing. The worst is that I don't know what to say. I think that's my worst of the week. But once again, love to hear your best and worst. And since we've got a new face on the program, James, hit us with your best and worst of the week.
Yeah, I mean, my best would have to be that Denki goal, DC United. I felt like there was some really good passing sequences to build up to it, and I was really happy to see the team, finally gel in at least that singular moment. That singular moment of happiness, which was quickly fleeting. Because my worst is, I mean, the defense for me. They dropped the ball. Missed assignments on set pieces were killer and ended up being our doom. And it was a day. It was a day for sure.
It certainly was. We're going to get into those defensive set pieces because if there's one thing that just ruins a game for you, it's giving up a goal in the first 2 minutes on an easily defendable ball. Coach, your best and worst.
Listen, I was pretty depressed on Saturday, but for my best, I'm going to conjure the immortal words of a buddy of mine, Lance, who on the way to a game one time said, the weather's beautiful, the beers are going to be good, the company is great, and if the soccer's good, that's just a bonus. And at the time, I kind of looked at, I wasn't so sure, but I think that is such wise words to live by. So that is my best. The weather, the beers, and the company was all great at the game. And the soccer, we didn't get the bonus, and that leads me to my worst, which is Einstein's definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Same formation, same basic tactical idea, which is very basic. Basically the same personnel, even when they were like, 5 rotations. Some of those rotations were like Matt Miazga coming back into the starting lineup. DeAndre Yellen, which side is Orishano going to play on? Same basic personnel, and you expect different results. It's insane.
We got some listener, viewer, best and worst. Rupesh with best, the game ended. Worst, the team's effort. I'm right there with you, Rupesh. I was never so happy to see a game end in my entire life. Jose, best, none that he can think of. Worst, every line and losing against DC United. We got Shauna here, best, Nick at the stadium. Always good to see Nick back. If you haven't been following the guy on Instagram, you really should. The poor guy had a chest tube put in, and yet Latte Loth was not suspended. I will never stop being mad about that. Worst, lack of effort or passion. Eric jumping in here right now. Best, the goal was outstanding. You want to see that from our $30 million duo. The worst, we seem to have forgotten how to defend. Pat has work to do. 100% agree. Let's jump into that DC United debacle here on Saturday night as I pull up the lineup. Your lineup for FC Cincinnati, obviously, Roman Celentano in the goal. Your back three of Teenage Hadibi, Matt Miazga in the middle, Miles Robinson. Your outside wingbacks, Lucas Engel and DeAndre Yedlin. Defensive mids, I suppose you could call them that, was Anunga Buka. And your front three were Evander. I almost said Ferreira because I'm looking at FOTMob, and that's how they have them listed. Evander, Valenzuela, and Dinky up in the front three. Gentlemen, when you saw this starting lineup, I like the lineup, kind of, but I was a little surprised that Orishano was not in the starting 11. What did either of you make of that?
I wasn't the least bit surprised because I thought when Pat Noonan had his press conference during the FC Dallas game, after the FC Dallas game, when he was saying that there were some guys who just didn't know how to see out a 2-goal lead, I thought that there was a giant sign flashing Orishano with an arrow pointing off into the distance, and Orishano sitting on the corner with a dunce cap on, is how I was picturing that going, even though I was only hearing the audio, because Orishano's effort really cost them in the FC Dallas game in that second half, I thought. So I thought that made sense to me. But as everyone who's ever listened to this podcast knows, when I see DeAndre Yedlin as a right wing back, I'm just like, it's going to be a long night because, the guy had maybe one of his best games in the orange and blue against Dallas in terms of offensive production, but he's just not consistent enough. And then Angle on the other side being so inconsistent. You have two wide players who just are really struggling to make an impact most nights right now.
I'm looking at the FOTMob rundown of this match, and if you want to see something funny, just do yourself a favor and look up the commentary and hit only key plays, and it's the shortest match commentary you will ever see in your life. The reason I was looking at it is I was trying to find out when exactly Matt Miazga went down in the match. I have been kind of mid on Matt Miazga's performance lately, and this isn't anything against him. It's just he's coming back from a major injury. Sometimes that takes time. There have been a few times where, to me, he seems a little bit like he's lost a step. I noticed in our rundown, though, there's some disagreement there. What do you guys think about Matt Miazga on the back line?
I mean, for me, I think he's a pretty solid leader back there. I just think he needs time. It was a pretty bad injury. And like you said, those things take time to come back from. And he's been trying to play, 45, 60, whatever he can fit in. I think they're trying to get him in there for it, but he can only do so much with his physical limited abilities right now.
Yeah.
I thought for me, Jason, that he had his best game since the injury. And that doesn't mean he's all the way back, but I thought he looked like he showed pretty good burst. If you want to see what I'm talking about, there's a moment in the 6th minute where he has to come from the center of the box all the way out to the corner and then blocks the kick out for a corner kick, blocks the cross, and just watch the burst in the closing speed there. Like, it looks like regular Matt. And that's really mostly all you need from him is like 6 or 8 yards of burst. You don't want him chasing attackers down. I didn't really see him put a foot wrong. I think he won 7 of 8 aerial duels or 7 of 8 ground duels, something like that. He's pretty good all around. Maybe not all the way back yet, but I thought I was encouraged in a night with very little encouragement. I was encouraged by Matt Miazga's performance, other than I guess we don't know the extent of his injury.
Absolutely. I'm kind of with you. I think he probably needs just a little bit more time to get back to 100%. I'm as someone who on a personal level has suffered like a really bad injury. I'm always worried about other people dealing with bad injuries and wanting to see them like recover and everything. So maybe that's just me being concerned. But we have to talk about this match, even though we don't really want to, and what happened in the 2nd minute when DC United scored a goal. Gabriel Pirani scored a goal off a free kick that was basically like a short corner from the top of the box, absolutely no one defending it whatsoever. Kevin Dinke, after it was scored, threw his arms up and looked around like, what the heck just happened? That is training ground stuff, guys. Like, I didn't play beyond high school, and even I know that you can't leave somebody open just right at the top of the box like that. What the heck was going through the team's mind on that play? That is the kind of stuff that gets made fun of in MLS.
Yeah, I will say, I will say, I just have a lot to say, so I'm trying to give it a breath and let James jump in here. But let's start from the beginning, since I'm going to run this part for just a second, because now you got me going, right? First of all, what is Lucas Angle doing on the play that led to the foul? The guy passes the ball. Every child knows that when your man passes the ball, you stay with the runner. He turns and watches the ball for a second. His runner is in behind. Then what is Teenage doing? Sliding out to to try to block a cross when he is within a yard or two and he could stay on his feet. Okay, so there's the set piece. Let's not even talk about the fact that I don't think Teenage touched the guy and they called a foul. Okay, whatever.
And wasn't that a yellow card too? I could look at that.
No, there was not a yellow card. Just a foul. Just a stern talking to. On the set piece, I hear you on Kevin Danke, but I think that you're right, because he shows no effort to get out to the ball. But I want to draw your attention to two other players. First of all, Roman Celentano, because as the goalkeeper, it is his responsibility to get players lined up. He has a 2-man wall on that basically short corner. On that, the guy's probably not shooting from there, plus a guy at the near post. So 3 players that have no marking responsibility that are just helping him guard the goal. That leaves the team short in the box. And then watch Brian Tawanunga, who actually, it looks like he's sitting on that pass. Like he's like, if they pass to the top of the box, I'm busting. And right when they pass it, a DC United player comes and gives him a little hip check. But Anunga, what are you doing, my friend? You're a veteran. You go down like a ton of bricks and act like you just dislocated your kneecap if somebody does that to you in the box. You don't stay on your feet, watch them score, and then shrug your shoulders like, man, wish that wouldn't have happened. So, you're never going to get that foul, which is unfortunate unless you go down. And I hate that. I wish all soccer would do better at calling fouls when they were fouls and not relying on the reactions of the players. But we know that's not the world we live in. So I do think that it was a mix-up, but I think also an incredible strike. That's the goal I'm actually not as upset about, because you think it's unfortunate, but also a heck of a strike, and a lot of things had to go right for DC United for that to go in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, had it happened to us, had we been the ones scoring off of that, we would have been talking about it for 5 minutes, how awesome it was. But James, I just think if you've paid this much, we talked about the $30 million of offensive spend in the offseason. But as we went into the season, a lot of people were talking about just how good the defense was supposed to be for FC Cincinnati. And the fact that you've got, like Coach mentioned, Anunga out there who's a veteran, Miles Robinson, who's a U.S. men's national team player, Matt Miazga, who's the captain, someone I think should have maybe noticed that things were not being set up right.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, when it happened, I was emotions, but very negative emotions. And it took me a second to sort of just comprehend the build up to that. I mean, the foul alone, we know, stupid, but the goal, who was marking that guy? Why weren't they marking him? And where is the lapse in communication? I mean, like you said, just basic training ground stuff that they're not doing, and it's coming back to bite them in the butt.
And not only that, you start the game off on the wrong foot. FC Cincinnati had the kickoff. They kicked it out of bounds right away. They give up a goal in the second minute. Now you're chasing the game against a team like DC United.
Yeah, chasing the game against a 13th seed at that time, and someone who we should have beaten, in my opinion, at least 3-0. It shouldn't have been a competition. But with the defensive inconsistencies, here we are.
Well, we did at least get one back. I mean, the highlight of the match, I think, for everybody is going to be the Dinky goal in the 15th minute off Evander. That's the combination that we've all been asking to see Just full transparency, before the match, I put $5 on the match for FCC win, Dinky to score, and Evander to score. So blame me, I guess, for the disaster. But at least we saw that nice build up and Evander getting into a position to feed Dinky a really good tap in. And that's something we haven't seen all year.
Yeah, I think that the key to this goal, if you look at the buildup from beginning to end, is really just how simply everyone played. So you start off with a really good line-breaking pass from Miles Robinson, but it was pretty straightforward. He saw Dado, he put it through the window into Dado. From there, Dado just kind of steered the ball around the defender into Kevin Denke's foot, and then he peels off to the near side, and Denke just carries the ball to the far side. He plays a pretty simple ball out to the left to Lucas Engel, who instead of like whipping a ball in or trying to do too much, just traps the ball and then gives it to Evander, your number 10, your playmaker, in a dangerous position, right? And then you see Buka make a nice run into the box that draws attention. Evander fakes the pass to Buka, so the defender lunges to block that, and then Evander just carries into the box, and then the rest, dishes it out to Denke, and you got it from there. But not only the movement of Kevin Denke was so good, and obviously the on-ball brilliance of Evander, but just the simplicity of every guy just kind of making the easy pass and knowing, like, if you have superior talent, you don't have to try to do too much every single time you have the ball. You can kind of just play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, absolutely.
Before we get into a little bit more, I forgot to read our ad read, so that's my fault. Let me just do this part real quick, pay some bills, and thank our good friends at Apollo Home. FCC continues to look uncomfortable on the pitch. I wanted to read this because they gave us a new ad read, which is just so apropos of what we're talking about. FCC continues to look uncomfortable on the pitch, but you can stay comfortable in your home with the $29 HVAC tune-up from Apollo Home. And also, just for CST listeners, Apollo Home is offering a $1,101 off of a new AC unit. That's right, $1,101 off. That's a heck of a coupon. That's a CST gift just for you. Give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. They've been great friends of ours now for a couple years, and we really enjoy working with them. James, I think I cut you off as we were talking about that build up to the Denke goal, so please go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I get it. Got to pay the bills. I get it, man. But yeah, like Coach was saying, the basics. Every time I watch this team, it's just one small thing that snowballs into another small thing, and games like this happen, and we lose to teams that we should be beating because we're missing the basics. The short passes in, the accurate quick crosses to guys that are open in the midfield, stuff like that is so simple and can be so simple. But for some reason, it's the most difficult thing ever for this team to do, and it's frustrating.
Well, what was more frustrating was in the 19th minute, DC United goes ahead with what would be the game-winning goal by Connor Antley, header off of a play that was coming out of a corner. Just another lapse on another set piece that led to a second chance goal. It seems like communication was another problem there, James.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like I was saying, it's so frustrating when we're just not marking our guys or doing the basic job of the defense. Like Pat Noonan initially said that we're best in our box and the opposing team's box. I was not seeing that here. I was seeing a team that was getting bodied by a 13th seed on defense and offense, and the score doesn't look like that. But if you watch the game, it's not pretty. And moments like in the 19th minute, when you have yet another set piece goal because guys weren't marked and there was miscommunication again, what are we doing to improve on this? Because whatever solutions they have are not working, and we don't have new solutions. So what's the game plan? I don't know. I'm not qualified to know.
I'm going to put the blame squarely back on Roman Celentano for this one again. And again, a lot of things there. Dado lost his mark, right? So Dado probably has most of the blame, but Roman Celentano is responsible for organizing the box, and why Dado Valenzuela was the last guy on the back post on a short corner like that. baffles me. You know, they play the short corner, but if you watch the structure, it doesn't change. Dado Valenzuela, I guess, was on the far post there and just steps up with the line to play the offside. And then he has two attackers over there, right? Nobody is dropping to the left. Roman doesn't give it a look. He doesn't give anybody a shout. And then from there, like James said, Dado just gets bullied off the ball. I don't even know if he knows the guy is there. Of course, Buka, tried to get out on the short corner and slipped. But it's that lack of awareness, right? It's so maybe it's not Roman. I also think Roman maybe could have come and caught the ball. But maybe it's not him. Maybe it's Matt Miazga. Maybe it is another one of those veterans. But to me, this was not a tactical problem, and it was not even like a technical, like an ability problem. It was all just mentality. It was awareness.
Well, the first half ends FC Cincinnati down 2-1. We get to halftime, and Pat Noonan does make some halftime changes. And this is a thing I think Coach and I are going to disagree on. So I thought, and I've been on the Dado train now for quite a while. I am the conductor of the Dado train. I have thought in the past few matches that of the guys up front, of the offensive core, Dado is the one guy who is out there moving into space, trying to make something happen, trying to get open, trying to receive passes. I personally was kind of upset when he came off at halftime. Was happy Luka came in, but I thought Dado played a heck of a first half and should have been given the opportunity to continue out the game.
Yeah, I'll go next, and then I'll let James come in and tell me why I'm wrong, since I think James agrees with you. But I don't think Dado had a bad game at all. I think that he struggled a lot with that DC high pressure that when FC Cincinnati was splitting lines into his feet. I mentioned the one play where they scored, where he was able to one touch it and kind of just steer it past the defender. When he tried to actually control the ball when it was played to them in the half space there, that ball was bouncing so hard off of his feet so many times. And I think DC plays so aggressively. Like, look at the amount of fouls that they have had. They foul more than any other team in MLS. So I think that he was struggling under that physical play. And then obviously he gave up the goal at the back post, which I'm sure Pat Noonan wasn't thrilled about. So I wasn't shocked to see him removed. I also don't think like he deserved to get the hook, like he was bad or anything. So I just was like, he tried. You're right. You said try a lot in that, Jason, when you were talking up Dado. He did try, and he tried a lot, and that's not worth nothing, Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Dado is his consistent effort. For me, when I'm watching him play, it's there. I mean, I see him, making the last shot in or making the final run in. He's got a couple of game-winning goals too this season so far. And his run of form, I mean, it's consistent, but I think coaches' points, I think, have to do with youth. I think he just needs more starts and more experience, and with that, he'll keep improving. But Noonan has to start him. He has to be a consistent start.
I think, and we're going to get into this in Talking Tactics, because we had a nice little discussion in the pregame for this podcast about that. But one of my biggest problems has been people not showing for passes, people kind of just moseying around, not really making a lot of effort. And if we saw half of the urgency from guys like, Luka, I think played a pretty good game, but guys like Luka, guys like Evander, even Buka, I thought was kind of off of his game on the night. If we saw a little bit more urgency, I think, from the rest of the team, we would not be seeing performances like this. And I know that's the kind of hard-hitting analysis you all, give us Patreon money for. As we move forward, Luka did come on, and I thought he did add a little bit of something to the match. Maybe the fact that he was benched lit a little bit of a fire under his tail. What do you guys think?
Could be. He certainly, get back to that try word, you saw him running around like crazy, and I do think he had a few nice moments on the ball. The thing that I was happiest with about Luka is it looked like he made an actual effort to pass the ball. He didn't just always take guys on. He absolutely hit one of his first touches of the ball is he tried to take two guys on and he split them and was dribbling right at Evander and ended up losing the ball like kind of towards Evander. I'm like, bro, why didn't you just pass him the ball to begin begin with. But after that, there were a few really nice moments. There was a moment where he was able to open up the play and pass it down to the right to Yedlin. He cut in from the left, and he was able to play a really nice cut pass into Kevin Danke. And like, that's the kind of play is like, man, Luka from a couple games ago was shooting that every single time. And so that effort to try to bring others into the game, I think if he continues that, even beyond all the good dribbling and the progressive carries, I think that will pay dividends. Because if he can playing goes instead of just goes and goes, I think he'll do a lot better.
Yes, absolutely, Coach. I'm 100% on that. Luka being able to bring in other team members and stop playing hero ball will make him and this team so much better.
I kind of lost my place in the rundown, but that a good point though is we're chasing the game, and at some point in the match, kind of late in the match, Pat Noonan decides to take out Kevin Danke. And I've seen him do this throughout the season. I think he did this in Columbus too, where he took out Kevin Danke in favor of Kai Kamara in Columbus. Took out Kevin Danke late in the match. Again, I'm not a tactical genius, but I just think maybe if you are losing at home, you want to keep your best striker on the pitch, regardless of what you're trying to do tactically. He is your best scorer. And on a team that actually played like it's capable of, he would be a golden boot contender. But am I missing something? Like, what? A, did Dado kick Pat Noonan's dog? And B, does Kevin Danke is he on a contract that says I only get to play 85 minutes a match? Discuss.
Coach, I'll let you start here.
I don't know. My supreme hope in all of this is that, and we'll get to this more in my final thoughts. So that's a teaser for you kids. Teaser is what they call that in the business. But I'm just hoping that Noonan has a different plan than the past 2 seasons, and part of that has got to be getting your guys some rest. And I agree. It's like, especially chasing a result on the road. Also, with the amount of time that he's played and the amount of minutes he's put in already. I can see the plan already have been, no matter what the score is, like, we're going to get Kai and Sergio out there sooner rather than later and give Kevin Danke a little bit of time off. Now, if that only ends up being 10 or 15 minutes, I'm not sure what good that does. But like I said, that's the hope. I think a little bit it might be like, wow, we just need guys that can run and battle, because all we can do to get the ball forward right now is heave it and hope for the best. So
true.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, just to bounce off on that real quick, we absolutely need guys that can run and battle. I mean, one of my biggest frustrations this season with this team, and I feel like a lot of people have said it, and it took a minute for it to sink in, but they're soft. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not seeing the same level of aggression and tenacity that I did the past 2 years. It's just, it's infuriating because the potential's there. And if they just fix these couple of things, I mean, they're cup contenders right there. But the aggression's not there. The passing is not there. There's too much missing.
Rupesh made a good comment earlier. I'm going to put it up here on the screen now, because I did notice this, especially with Evander. It also seems sometimes on the offensive end, the team tries to get too cute instead of making the easy play. And I can't tell you, I could probably count on one hand, but it seemed like a lot more than that. Instances where, especially Evander, sometimes Luka, would get the ball in a dangerous area close to the opponent's 18 and either try to do a back pass give and go or a quick give and go with like 3 defenders around, rather than, and I get it, they're chasing the match, but that seemed to be the MO was, hey, let's try to do something cute rather than trying to open up space and maybe play an easier thing.
Yeah, I think when you're down in a match, especially, that is the time for you to hone in on the basics and not play cutesy. You got to stick with what you know, stick with the tactics, stick with the routine, make the quick passes, get up the field and score a goal. I mean, that needs to be your primary concern, not trying to bomb, 70 yarders like you were last season, or dribble past three guys and nutmeg the goalie. You need to score a goal and use proper teamwork and proper tactics to do that.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up this match. FC Cincinnati loses their first game at TQL Stadium at this season, I believe it was, and their first game at TQL Stadium in a long, long time. The Fortress, it's still a fortress, but sometimes fortresses get a few little holes in the wall. A stat that was brought up on the Cincinnati Soccer Talk Slack, can't remember who brought it up, but FC Cincinnati is the bottom 10 in MLS with a negative 4.1 expected goal differential. $30 million into the offense. And that is the stat that we're living with right now, James.
I mean, it says it right there. $30 million into offense, and we are bottom 10 in MLS. What are we doing? I mean, a lot of these questions are going to be the same because there are a lot of the same questions. What are we doing, guys? We're bottom 10 and we spent 30 milli. What are we doing? Coach, help me understand, somebody.
Thank you, Justin, on the ones and twos and our stat guy. First loss in TQL Stadium since November 10th of last year. Rupesh with that stat that I just mentioned a minute ago. Guys, we are officially at the midpoint of the season. FC Cincinnati has a week and a half off before we head out to New England to face New England Revolution, another team that we should, on paper, beat. But we are halfway through the season, and if you listen to a lot of hype in the beginning of the season, and then there was that anonymous GM survey that is always put out by the Athletic every year, there was a lot of hype going into this year. I think we all felt it. A lot of people around the league felt it. Yes, we're in second place in the East, but the vibes, I think, feel a little off. So I'm going to ask, before we read our second ad and then go into what I'm assuming is going to be a great talking tactics, quick vibe check with you guys. Coach, like where are you right now on this team?
I mean, I continue to think that if you take SEC starting 11 and you line them up against the 11 that they're playing against, in almost every game, there's very few positions I'd be like, yeah, I'd take that other guy over ours. The problem is it's almost always in those wing back areas, right? And that makes your play predictable. And so I am just so frustrated that this team a good team? Yes, they have the talent and they clearly can be a good team. The reason why they're not playing well or playing like a good team is because the book is out on them. Teams know how to defend them. And that's what I'm going to talk about in talking tactics. And from there, it's like, then you're relying on a guy to make a play, right? Lucho to make a play, Evander to make a play, Kevin Denke to dribble a bunch of guys into the box and make a play, instead of being like, we have a way we can play our offense and an ethos and a methodology that we're going to go attack teams by. It's like teams are like, oh, pack the middle. We'll take our chances. You want to play DeAndre Yedlin into the goal line? Have fun at that. And then once every 45 games, DeAndre Yedlin gets an assist like he did against FC Dallas. And, it still didn't hurt him.
What about you, James? If I'm asking your vibe check, where are you right now?
Well, listen, I'm not a tactics guy, but I'm a vibes guy, and the vibes are down over here, man. I mean, this team has a lot of potential. I see a lot of good, but in spurts, and it's never consistent. When the offense is on, the defense is off. When the defense was on, the offense was off. We're either scoring goals or we're getting goals scored on us, and there's no sense of balance whatsoever, and no answers to figure out how to get balanced. And I don't know what to do, but I expect the coaching staff to know what to do. And so far, I've yet to hear any definitive, detailed answers about what we're going to do going forward to fix these problems so that we can be where those GMs and others expected us to be.
Sean Pace, kind of where I am with this great comment. The next 2 months will be critical to see if we can compete or sink into mid-table mediocrity. And that's kind of where I am, because there, but for the grace of other teams losing, we are still in second place in the East by 4 points behind Philadelphia. If other teams were winning at the same time that we're losing, we'd be in trouble. Not that I think this team is in any, I say that now, knock on wood. I don't think that they're a team that's going to miss the playoffs. But, with the way the playoff format is, with that stupid 3-game format and everything, you've got to hope to get home field advantage, or hopefully a bye week. And right now, I don't feel that they are anywhere close to that. So whatever. I think if they can turn it around, and once we get through Leagues Cup and all of that, if they can turn it around, the vibes are gonna change. But something needs to change tactically, which we're gonna get to in our next segment. But first, we want to thank our other sponsor, Beyond Exercise, who is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our local MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. And we want to thank them once again for being a big sponsor for us and supporting us all the way through. Coach, when we were talking about the rundown, and we always set aside some talking tactics, and you said, I don't know what to say. I felt a little sad. I felt a little dejected, because normally you got something. What do you got for us, Coach?
I think the hard thing is saying the same thing over and over, and that's why it feels like I don't have anything to say. I have plenty to say. I guess I should put it as, I don't know if people want to hear this again. James Hadaway had a comment earlier. Isn't the defensive inconsistency due in large part to our inability to play out of a high press and giving up transition goals and or set pieces off those transition opportunities? So I'm not sure exactly if he means playing us pressing, FC Cincinnati pressing, or the other team pressing. But here's what I will say about the defensive inconsistencies. It sucks to give up 2 set piece goals. That second one in particular, I think, was extremely sad. But outside of that, the defense actually did play pretty well, even if you consider the opponent. They held DC United to 0.19 non-penalty expected goals below what DC United averages. So they held them below their average non-penalty expected goal. So outside of that, the problem is, other than the 1 goal they scored, which was pretty beautiful, the offense was putrid. And I think it was all about DC United's high press. The game plan for FC Cincinnati was pretty clear, to try to build through that press, sometimes ponderously slow. There are times when they had beat the first line of pressure and they played it back to the center backs to try to reset and maintain possession. They played mostly up the right, I'm guessing because Buka is on that side, and they figured they would have Dado on that side, and they looked to combine up the right. The problem is they didn't beat that pressure very often. Roman Celentano is clearly uncomfortable trying to play through pressure. He had several absolutely terrible turnovers. Early in the match, he did that thing where he threw the ball and like kind of straight into the ground. In the 36th minute, he passed the ball square, straight out of bounds. It was like a 10-yard pass. He was at the edge of the 18. I'm not even talking about his long balls, which we already know aren't very good. Just his passing out of the back is not great. Brandon Nunga, he's okay in possession, but we've talked about it ad nauseum on the show. He plays negative and square. He's not advancing the ball, which piles the pressure on the FC Cincinnati center backs to be the ones to do that. And then those wing backs that I keep talking about, they were pretty bad in possession in this one. Lucas Angle was only 75% passing, which you don't like to see it out of a guy who played half the game as a center back, right? And half the game as a wing back. He only had 1 progressive pass. Yedlin had a respectable 4 progressive passes, but he led all players on both teams. He led everyone having 4 missed touches. Now, to get qualified for a missed touch, you basically have to have the ball played right to you and just let it like go through your legs or slam off your feet and go to an opponent. It's a hard stat to get, and he had 4 of those. And the fact of the matter is, even when he was on the ball, he just didn't do that well. So that leaves those center backs, Evander or Buka, to try to progress the ball. But that means that both Evander and Buka are dropping deeper and deeper whenever FCC has possession. Only 7 of Buka's 63 touches were in the attacking third. That's 11%. Evander was better. It was 19 of his 51. That's 37%. But you know what? He averages over 40, and this was his 3rd lowest percentage attacking touches. You know what the other 2 games were? Crew away, pretty crappy match, and NYCFC away, pretty crappy match, So he is not getting attacking third touches, and it shows. The book is out on this team's. Press them like crazy up the middle, because it's the only players that can advance the ball are the center backs, Buka and Evander. Force the ball to the wings and then take your chances from there. And then it takes a guy like Luca Orshano being able to dribble the ball 80 yards, or the occasional time when Yedlin or Engel is able to play a ball straight up the line to Denke to advance the ball, because any pressure up the middle just completely clogs things, and FC Cincinnati has no solutions from there.
We've talked about, and I mean, it's like talking to a brick wall. Like we talk about, like, well, what kind of substitutions could Pat Noonan make? Could he change the formation? That sort of thing. But I think maybe we're missing a guy like a Kubo who could come into the midfield and offer you some sort of option to move forward. And we talked about this, as we were in the buildup, that horseshoe of death, where you're passing out to the wing, back to the center back, out to the wing, back to the center back, because you can't get anything up the middle because of that press. I just feel like these guys are professionals, and everybody in not everybody, but a lot of teams in MLS press. There should be some sort of option on the bench or in Noonan's formational bag of tricks to maybe do something a little different. And I think for me, that's what's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. So what like I talked about, the other teams clog the middle so hard. You certainly can play there and try to play through the lines there. And you see FC Cincinnati have a little bit of success with Buka, or when they can get Evander on the ball, or when Obi came in the second match. There were a couple times he got on the half turn and carried the ball forward that was useful. Right. But when you have a team, DC United was not only playing 3 center backs tight in the middle, right, but then they had 2 holding mids, and they were dropping their 10 in. That's more than half of the outfield players, 6 out of 10 half outfield players in that middle area. So of course you want to play to where the good space is, which is going to be in the wide areas. And the problem is right now, FC Cincinnati don't have players in those wide areas that can make a difference. And it would be okay if when they did break the press, they made you pay for it, right? But the problem is right now, you just have too many times where FC Cincinnati is able to do a fantastic job breaking the press, like in the 38th minute when Anunga plays a one-touch pass forward to build out of the back and totally unlocks that press. That's the one that led to Dado's penalty shout, right? Or Yedlin's penalty shout. Take your chance there. They do that enough times, but then they get to the end and they just kind of fumble the ball at the goal line, if you would. And I think a lot of that is on the wingbacks. Think about it. In the 52nd minute, there's a fantastic splitting pass from Obi to Buka. Buka opens his hips and plays Yedlin in wide open on the right. If you take a picture of that ball heading to Yedlin, his eyes must have been giant, because you cannot ask for a better ball. You had Kai Kamara and Kevin Denke making runs in the box, good runs. Kai to the near post. Kevin Denke had pulled out to the penalty spot. And all Yedlin has to do is get it within, 6 or 10 yards of Kai Kamara, and we've seen what he can do. And that's the one where Yedlin crossed the ball so badly that the DC United wingback on the other side came and collected the ball and then turned and nobody was there. The cross was so bad, it was like a pass to him. It was like switching the fields to him to start the attack. And you have plays like that where it's like, okay, you break the press and then you don't do anything with the ball. The other teams don't even have to respect that. They don't even have to worry about if you're able to play Yedlin in, because he almost never does anything useful with the ball.
So, Coach, I have a question for you. Do you think that these players like Yedlin and the wingers, are they able to adapt to the situation and fix their shortcomings, or are they just not the guys to get it done?
Yeah, it's a great question. So another way to put it basically is, should Yedlin be punted to the moon, or does he have a useful place on this team? Right. And I would say he has a really useful place on this team. He is a pretty good long passer of the ball. He's good in possession in terms of short passes and combination play. And he's a pretty decent defender, and he's got good speed, good physicality, right? He's never been a good attacker. Never. If you go look at his stats forever, he has never been a good offensive outside outside back. People loved him in Seattle that way just because he was so fast. He would always get beyond everybody and then shank the cross, right? So you need to adapt to players' strengths, right? Nobody is going to say like, oh, well, let's just play Matt Miazga at center forward, right? Because he would be an oaf up there. He's big. He can hold the ball. No, he wouldn't know what to do. And right now it feels to me like Pat Noonan is saying DeAndre Yedlin's a right wing back and we're playing him at right wing back because we have right wing backs and right wing backs are right wing backs. And DeAndre Yedlin can't do that job anymore. I'm not sure he ever could. So we saw some comments pop up, 4-3-3, please, or 4-2-3-1. And that is the thing. As a true outside back system like that, where he is not the only wide player in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2. The only wide player on the right is DeAndre Yedlin. There's no winger out there. There's nobody else to help him other than a midfielder occasionally floating wide. And even then, it's an inside-out run. So you have Buka or somebody running from the middle of the field out wide. So even if he gets the ball, he's facing the sideline, right? Mm-hmm. A guy like DeAndre Yedlin needs a player overlapping him, or he needs to be overlapping. He needs a guy out there with him to combine because that's what he is good at. He's not good at serving the ball in. He's not good at beating somebody at the goal line and playing cutbacks.
Or maybe like a trailing player who
totally
is a little bit behind him, but still wide enough to maybe make another cross in. I've been screaming from the high heavens for us to go with 4 in the back and try to find a way to make Luka a true winger, which is kind of what he wants to be, and to give DeAndre Yedlin some help up there. But I think that Pat Noonan is married to this idea of the formation that he has. And I don't know if it's the personnel he doesn't feel confident in changing, because remember when he came on board, there was a lot of talk of us playing the diamond. Oh, he's going to play the diamond. Philly plays the diamond. And I was an RSL fan when Jason Christ was there, and they were the kings of the diamond. But we haven't even seen that really. He is just married to this formation that he has, and it's never other than the sword formation, but he doesn't really experiment when all the players are quote unquote healthy, I think.
Yeah. And he's played a 4-back a couple times. In fact, away at DC, they opened the match in a back 4, if I remember correctly. There have been a couple times, but it hasn't had great success. But it's like what we talk about when we talk about like them hitting their stride and gelling. It's like you can't play it every now and again and expect to have any success. Right. I don't know that now is the time to like make a giant sea change and be like, we're changing all the tactics and this is how we're going to do it. But I don't know that it's not the time, because you got to love that right now you have no Nick Hagland. You're going to have Miles Robinson, who, even though he's going to be back, he's going to be gone for now. So he's not training with you. And then when he comes back, he's going to be having traveled and having played. He's going to have less rest than the other guys, right? You have Teenage Hadebe, who is underperforming at the moment, right? You have all of these reasons. Yeah, you have all of these reasons why it might be good to take a center back off the pitch. And here is the thing. I'm going to paint a picture for you, and I'm going to tell you why it would be great. If you play 4 at the back, and then in possession, you do the thing that like 90% of European teams do, and you split your center backs wide and you have your defensive center midfielder drop in between them in possession. It doesn't matter if that guy can't pass the ball, because he's the center of the center backs now. He's just flipping the ball from one side to the other, and it draws a player out of midfield, which makes the field bigger. It spreads out those windows to pass the ball into Dado or into Danke or into Evander even more. Right now, the midfield is so clogged, you can either play the ball to Obi/Anunga or Buka. You're not getting the ball through there. Drop him out, spread those center backs out, make the field bigger. Take that guy, whether it's Anunga or Buka or Obi, take him and just make him a metronome. Swing that ball side to side. Tell my center backs, your job is to split those lines into Buka, Evander, Kevin Danke, Dado Valenzuela. That sounds fun, right? Getting those players on the ball. Luka in the half spaces. Why are we consistently saying, you know what we're going to ask Obi to do is turn and play the ball forward more? It's not his strength. You know what we're going to ask? We're going to ask Anunga, just turn the ball and play it forward more. Go and look at these guys' careers. They have never done that. That is not what they're there for.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because I've never thought about that. And I don't know about you, James, but I think that kind of formation, that kind of style plays into especially Obi's skill set, because he's quick enough and he's very good defensively to be able to drop back and break up an attack. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think that if they tried that, I think for Obi at least, that would be a good move.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. No, I think for Obi, that'd be an excellent move. Like you said, he's a very defensive minded player, but also very smart on the ball, makes smart passes and makes smart plays. I just, I want change to be made. And at this point, I will take anything. So if it's changing the formation, change the formation. But we're midway through the season, and we're a second table team, not playing like a second table team. Something's got to give.
Exactly. I mean, let's look at this upcoming games for FC Cincinnati. On paper, these are games that should be winnable as we get ready to head into Leagues Cup and Club World Cup break and all the other summer of soccer stuff that they're cramming down our throats here in the United States. June 14th, New England at New England on the turf. Montreal, June 25th. That sounds like a fun road trip I really want to go to. Orlando City, June 28th, and then July 5th, FC Cincinnati hosts Chicago. So out of the next 4 matches, all of them are winnable matches. Orlando is pretty good, but New England's starting to kind of hit their stride. Chicago, I think Chicago's kind of surprising some people. I think they're going to be a playoff team. But these are all matches that you look ahead to and you're thinking to yourself, maybe now, like you've got a match or two that maybe you can experiment, right? Like maybe now is the time at least to try to do 2 or 3 games of something different just to try to get the bad taste out of your mouth. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Montreal for me is the win for sure. Other than that, though, I hate to say it, but I can't guarantee wins at Orlando, Chicago, or well, who was the other one?
New England.
New England.
Yeah. New England. I mean, even the Revs, like starting off, yeah, they had a rough season to start, but now I think they signed Campana this season, and since then they've seemed to hit their stride, or at least start to. And I can't say the same for us. So I mean, I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we came out with 4 points.
That's the thing, though. I wouldn't be shocked if we came out with FC Cincinnati came out with 4 points. I wouldn't be shocked if FC Cincinnati came out with 9 or 10 points. Because this team is good enough that you really get the feeling if just like the light bulb doesn't even need to go on. It just needs to do that really annoying thing where it like kind of flickers like it's almost going to come on, and the team can beat teams if that happens. We've seen them beat teams with them not playing very well, right? God help us all how happy we'll be if that light bulb ever fully comes on, because with this talent and with these center backs and with Obi, one of the best holding midfielders in the league, this team should be a Supporter Shield contender, an MLS Cup contender. So I think that you hit the nail on the head, James, when you said, I just want to see something change. I don't even care what it is, something. But like, I don't care if Pat Noonan wants to like get a bunch of kids and start playing them and be like, I'm sorry, Luca, you're not going to see the field until you start passing more. Or I'm sorry, Yedlin, you're not going to see the field until you learn how to cross without either hitting it over everybody or smacking it off the first defender. Or whether you change formations, tweak tactics. It doesn't have to be wholesale changes. You can do a little bit here and there, and having 2 weeks head into the next match with a whole bunch of bad taste in your mouth with which to work, because bad taste in a player's mouth, that's gold for a coach. You can really convince guys to do some stuff, when they're feeling real bad. So now's the time.
Jose brought up a good question, and we'll leave it with Jose's question since we're kind of running close to the end. But he says, so I come back to the question, is Noonan up to the task to change tactics? Now, I don't think anybody in their right mind is hashtag Noonan out at this point. Obviously, the man, coach of the year just 2 years ago, he turned this program around, this club around from the absolute darkest pit of soccerdom. But I think it is, I at least think, justified for fans to be like, Pat, what are you doing, buddy? Like, it is. Do you guys think that questions should be asked at this point, based on not just this season, but how last season turned out too?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it would be insane not to question what we're doing at this point with where we are in the standings and what our underlying numbers are, because our underlying numbers say, but we're second in the standings.
Yeah.
So what's the game plan, Pat? I mean, how are we going to fix these issues that we're having on and off the ball, offense and defense? No sense of balance, no sense of care or passion or drive or tactical plan. I mean, you name it, seems like it's a problem nonstop.
Yeah.
So what's the game plan? And I think that we need detailed answers from Pat Noonan on what we're doing going forward to fix these problems.
I think it might be slow, but I trust that Pat Noonan generally gets it right, in my opinion. Like, I think he's always slower to change than I want. Substitution slower than I wanted. Everything's slower, but he generally gets it right. I will also say this, as a coach, it is so hard to change something when your team is getting results or high up in the table, because how dumb do you look if you're winning games and you're second or first in the East and you change formations and then you lose a couple of games? Yep. It's always, the inertia there is always so strong. That's why I'm saying this bad taste, that's fodder to work with. So this is going to be the key. Do we start to see changes now that those results aren't coming anymore?
Yeah, I feel that when I was working on my private pilot's license, my flight instructor was like, any landing that you can walk away from, it's a good landing. You'd rather it be butter every single time, but if you get it on the ground and nothing's broken, you did your job. And I kind of think that's where FC Cincinnati was, at least last week, with, hey, it's not pretty, but we're getting results. Well, that kind of wraps it up for this week. But before we get to our final thoughts, we want to thank all of you for helping Cincinnati Soccer Talk in making content like this. If you'd like to support us, please head over to cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support. There you'll be able to sign up for our Patreon page and make a one-time donation. And a paid Patreon subscription enters you into our Growler Cup competition, as well as other great bonus content from CST. And if your Growler Cup picks are better than my crazy parlay bet I put on the RSL LA Galaxy game, good luck. I would have won $400, and RSL decided to give Galaxy their first win of the season. So boo to that. Now we're into final thoughts. James, thank you so much for being on tonight, and great job in your first CST. Let's hear your final thought.
So myself, and I feel like the majority, if not all of the fan base, can agree that our confidence is dwindling. Results this season started kind of good. You know, the 1-point wins were all right, but I feel like they're starting to catch up with us. And as we get into this tougher stretch of our season where we're playing teams like Miami, Columbus, even Chicago, the Rebs in the current form, I can't guarantee that this team will perform the way that we expected them to at the beginning of the season. And I hate that. I don't want that. I want this team, we all want this team to be successful, but we need answers and we need change going forward. What that is, I don't know. But hopefully Pat Noonan and the front office know, and hopefully we get some answers in the next couple of weeks when we start our next match.
Well, great. Thank you again, James. Coach, what do you think? Final thought.
Thanks for having me today, Jason. So much for not allowed to talk about, huh? My final thought, and I hinted at this, is my one great hope, and I have no idea if this is true, so I'm just holding the hope, is that Pat Noonan is intentionally avoiding the pitfalls of the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago, they won the Shield, but he ran the players into the ground doing so, and then we know how that ended up in the playoffs against Crew. Last year, at the end of May, which is where we are now, the team was 10-3-3. Pretty good. After the Leagues Cup break hit, after that, they finished the season out 3-2-4. And then we know how that turned out in the playoffs. This year, end of May, 9-3-5. Not as good as last year, but I am hoping that Pat is doing a little more rotation, a little more, maybe even we don't like it, I don't like it, sticking with the game plan, trying to make these guys figure out how to break the press the way that he wants them to break the press, so that late in the season they can be hitting their stride and going. Maybe Pat is like so many out there who have said, I don't care about the Shield, I don't care about the standings, I care about putting that star over the crest, and everything, all eyes are on that prize.
Thank you, Coach, and thank you once again for your insights and allowing us to ask you dumb questions. My final thoughts has nothing to do with FC Cincinnati or Major League Soccer, but I want to give a big shout out to the Annapolis Blues, who set a USL 2, so this isn't even professional, USL 2 attendance record this past weekend with 12,853 fans out to see their match. I'm not a pro rel truther. I'm not pro rel anon, but if and when USL gets pro rel up and running, that's the kind of stories that you want to see turning into professional teams. And so hopefully out in Annapolis, Maryland, they're going to get that semi-pro team up to professional with crowds like that. Either way, it's great to see soccer in the United States growing. If you're about my age and you grew up in the 90s and you saw where it was, it is a miracle where we are today. So big ups to our friends out in Annapolis, and big ups to you all for sticking with us for the past hour, listening to us talk about FC Cincinnati. And we want to thank you once again for listening. Check out CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. A lot of great articles out there on the website, a lot of great photos. We have a team of folks who are not part of the podcast who do great work on CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com that I think needs some shine as well. So check that out, and we will be back with you, I guess, on Monday as we get ready for another week of MLS action. So for James, for Coach, I'm Jason Ashcraft. We'll see you next time.